Right now, the entire world of tech is basically fighting a war on two different fronts. On one side, you've got this relentless push to build the future, to create amazing new things. But on the other, there's this desperate, constant struggle just to secure what we already have. And that conflict, well, it pretty much defines everything.
So it really forces us to ask a pretty big question, right? In this massive race to innovate, are we actually losing the battle to keep everything secure? As we're speeding into this future that's powered by incredible AI and all these new tools, is the very foundation of our digital world becoming, more fragile? Are the people trying to break things moving faster than the people building them? To figure that out, we've got to go right to the front line.
All right, so let's start on the defensive. We're on the digital front line now. This is the world where the so-called breakers live and breathe. We're talking state-sponsored hackers, sophisticated cybercriminals, and they are just launching wave after wave of attacks against the very backbone of our networks.
So how do you even measure a digital emergency? Well, sometimes it just comes down to a single number, and that number is 9.9. On a scale of 1 to 10, that's the severity score for a brand new flaw found in Cisco VPN hardware that's used everywhere. It is literally about as critical as it can possibly get.
Now, this is what the security world calls a zero-day vulnerability. And what that means is the bad guys have found a secret door that the good guys, the builders, they don't even know exists. You have literally 0 days' notice to prepare a defense. It's an incredibly dangerous weapon for attackers to have. So the response had to be just as urgent, just as dramatic. The U.S. Cybersecurity Agency, CISA, they issued an emergency directive. Why? Because attackers could get complete root control of these devices. I mean, think about that. That's having the keys to the entire castle. They could bypass all security. And the directive, it gave federal agencies just 24 hours to patch it. That is a nearly impossible timeline. And it just goes to show you how serious this threat really was.
And look, this isn't just a simple break-in. We're talking about a sophisticated, multi-stage heist. So first, these state-sponsored hackers use the 0 days to get inside. Then, they plant something called a bootkit. That's malware that's buried so deep in the system it even survives a reboot. Next up, they install a permanent backdoor so they can get in whenever they want. They disable the logs, hijack active sessions, and for the grand finale, they crash the device to cover their tracks completely. It's a total stealthy takeover.
And don't think for a second this is just about some big piece of hardware in a server room. Oh no, the threat is hitting the cloud too. Right now, as we speak, there's a known vulnerability in a really common Linux tool, and it's being used in the wild to steal valuable credentials from Amazon Web Services. That puts some of the most critical cloud infrastructure on the planet at risk.
Okay, but while that whole defensive battle is raging on, the other front is just exploding with activity. We are smack in the middle of a golden age of tools for the builders, and it's all being driven by this insane acceleration in artificial intelligence. This is where the other side of the war is being fought, and you could argue it's where it's being won.
And this quote, this one, really captures the whole shift. Powerful AI is now available directly in the command line. I mean, think about that. AI isn't just some feature in an app anymore. It's being baked right into the most fundamental layer of how software gets made, the terminal.
And this is the tool that's making it happen. GitHub's Copilot CLI is now out there for everyone to try. It lets developers do all sorts of complex stuff, building an app, squashing a bug, deploying to the cloud, just by typing what they want in plain, natural language. This is a complete game changer for the developer experience.
And it's not just GitHub, it's happening everywhere and at a pace that is just dizzying. You've got Google upgrading its Gemini models to make them faster and more reliable. You've got NVIDIA's powerful AI stack becoming super easy to access on Microsoft's cloud. OpenAI is open sourcing its safety tools for the community to use. Heck, they're even trying to make ChatGPT your AI morning planner. The whole ecosystem is just on fire right now.
But this creative explosion isn't just about AI. The builders are also getting their hands dirty and fundamentally re-architecting the very plumbing of the internet. The goal? Make everything faster, cheaper, and way more scalable.
Okay, so to really get how builders are speeding up the web, you need to understand this classic problem called the thundering herd. So the old way, right? Imagine a super popular piece of content. The moment its cache expires, you'd get thousands of people all trying to get it at the exact same instant, just slamming the server. The new way? So much smarter. The very first request triggers the update, and everybody else just waits a fraction of a second for that fresh result. It sounds simple, but it is absolutely revolutionary.
And the impact? I mean, it is staggering.
This one single change, made by the cloud platform Vercel, prevents over 3 million unnecessary server requests every single day. For developers, that means huge cost savings, and for the rest of us, it just means a faster, more reliable web.
And they weren't done. They also completely rebuilt their whole service for managing domain names. Now it's instant, it's up to 50% cheaper, and it offers way more choices. It's just another perfect example of a platform getting rid of the annoying stuff so that builders can focus on one thing: building.
Okay, so this is where it gets complicated. This is where our two fronts, creation and destruction, they just smash right into each other. What happens when these incredibly powerful tools, made by the builders, get tangled up in the complex, messy conflicts of the real world?
Well, here's a real-world example. In what is a truly unprecedented move, Microsoft recently took a very direct stance. The company has blocked the Israeli military from using some of its cloud and AI services, specifically for anything involving the mass surveillance of Palestinians.
And a decision like that, it immediately raises this huge question, and there is no easy answer. I mean, on the one hand, is this a new, responsible standard for ethical tech? Where companies step up to make sure their tools aren't used for harm? Or is this a dangerous new precedent where a private company suddenly gets to act like a geopolitical regulator, making decisions that can change the world?
But this collision between building and breaking, it isn't always so direct or intentional. Sometimes it's just the result of a simple screw-up. For instance, security researchers just found a massive database of Indian bank transfer records just sitting out there, totally exposed. And you want to know the most alarming part? After it was finally secured, nobody, not a single company or government agency, would take responsibility. That leaves this huge, dangerous gap in accountability.
And all of this, it brings us right to the heart of what you could call the great tech imbalance. We are all living right in the middle of this constant tug of war between the incredible speed of the builders and the constant, looming threat of the breakers.
And as our source material puts it so well, this tension between the builders and the breakers defines our current moment. That's it right there. This constant push to innovate and the desperate need to stay secure, they're locked in this endless struggle. And the outcome? Well, it shapes pretty much everything about our digital lives.
So, that leaves us with one last big question to think about. As the pace of innovation just keeps getting faster and faster, who's ultimately responsible for holding all of this together? Is it the builders, the companies making the tools? Is it the regulators, the governments trying to keep up? Or is it us, the people who use and depend on this stuff every single day? The answer is, well, it's not clear at all. But one thing's for sure, every single one of us has a stake in the outcome.